Now, for the very last part of this, how can we neutralize something that's charged? Okay, so the last piece of this is now I've charged something. I'm not really excited about this. I'd like to go back to being neutral. So in order to do that, you simply have to give it a path to freedom. Okay, and honestly, whenever you see a spark, that's what it is. A spark is basically electrons that have been given a path to freedom. Okay, and honestly, we don't really call it in electrical terms. You don't call that a spark. You call it a discharge. Okay, now the best example of this, unfortunately, we can't do it in person, though you've probably seen me do it enough times just when I was bored and had it in the back of the room, is a Van der Graaf generator. Okay, now this is a video of a Van der Graaf generator. And basically what it is, and you're welcome to watch the video, I have a link to it. You can watch the video yourself, he'll explain it. But basically, whoever Steve Spangler is, this object is a giant metal sphere at the top. And it's connected kind of to this little tower that has a rubber, I guess that's a conveyor belt, the best way to describe it. Now what happens is when I turn it on, the conveyor belt starts to kind of spin up and down like this. Okay, and what happens is the conveyor belt actually grabs electrons from metal pieces at the bottom, and it takes them all the way to the top. Now the electrons get stuck on the metal thing and get stuck on the rubber belt, but when they get to the top, they get thrown off there because the electrons would rather be here. Now the problem is, as I throw more and more electrons on top of this, all right, what's unfortunately going to happen is that the electrons start to get more and more upset that they're there, and they're starting to look for a way to get out. Now, you saw this a bunch on the Bill Nye video. Whenever you saw those sparks, what was happening is eventually, if you build enough charge and you build up enough electrons, you create a situation where they are absolutely looking for a place to go. And if you take something like this metal sphere, which can give it a path, and you hold it close enough, what you create is a discharge. Okay? Now, of course, discharge for us, we have a much more exciting name for that. That would be lightning. All right? But basically, all the Van der Graaf generator does is it keeps throwing electrons onto the top metal sphere, and then over time, the electrons get more and more upset until they try and find a path to escape. And if you give them a path to escape, you can neutralize the metal sphere at the top. Okay? So when you see that lightning, what's happening is basically it's discharging, and it's actually neutralizing. Okay? Now, this is technically electricity, all right, because it is moving electrons. All electricity is for us is the idea that of moving electrons, okay? The problem is that this type of electricity, this static electricity, is not very consistent, okay? And our next kind of exploration discussion is going to be how can we actually consistently move electrons in a way that's useful for us, all right? So hopefully this has done a little bit to explain the idea of static electricity, how charges move. If you have any questions, please send me an email or come during office hours. Otherwise, our next videos are going to focus on the idea of circuits and kind of how electricity moves. So that's kind of where we're headed. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of the day, and I will talk to you later.